This is a Farmertec MS361 chainsaw. Those of you who know such things may notice it bears a striking resemblance to a Stihl MS361 chainsaw, but it is not. If you own fancy brand name things like Stihls or Husqvarnas or what have you, you've probably run across this thing before where you have a fancy expensive saw or lawnmower or tool of some description. Something breaks, you break the pull cord on it, and you hop on Amazon to buy a new one, and you see the Stihl pull cord OEM exactly like the one you broke for $100, and then right next to it you'll see an aftermarket replacement made in China somewhere for $15. Yeah, it's pretty tempting, right? And I live and die by that stuff. I buy it all the time. I use it almost exclusively because it's so cheap. Anyway, the point is, turns out those factories in China make every single part that goes into a chainsaw, not just the ones that break frequently. You can get this cap, you can get this handle, you can get these bumper spikes, you can get this muffler, you can get the block, you can get every single piece. You can also get a box containing every single piece and make your own Stihl knockoff chainsaw entirely out of cheap Chinesium parts. And that's what this is. I didn't actually build this one, a friend did. They bought the kit, they had fun putting it together, they cut a few stumps in their backyard and realized that they didn't have a backyard warranting owning a large chainsaw, got sick of tripping over it in the garage and sold it to me for cheap. And jury's out on whether I got fleeced or not. I think it's going to be a worthwhile investment because it was cheap, but I've been struggling with it. Honestly, though, I can't blame its pedigree. Most of my struggles have been my own fault. I don't actually know anything about this kind of stuff. People assume because I work on things that I know how they work. It's the other way around, actually. I know how things work after I work on them, not before. So, I don't know anything about small engine maintenance, repair, tuning, any of that stuff. So when I got this, it wasn't running right. I screwed around with it. I could get it started, but it revved too high. It generated a lot of heat. It caused a lot of problems, and I ran it for a while as best I could as I sort of researched how to tune a carburetor. You know, I know how a carburetor works. I could teach you how a carburetor works on a whiteboard in a engineering classroom. What I don't know is how to tune one. How, if you take your saw and you let it idle for 2 minutes and then you grab it and you tip it nose down and it dies, what does that mean? Which one of these little tiny 3 screws do you adjust when that happens? That's a whole nother animal. I don't know anything about it. Or I didn't. So I ran the saw out of adjustment for quite a while. Did some research in my off time and started to learn about that kind of thing. I started to tune the carburetor. And I think I eventually got it to a good place, but in the interim, in my ignorance, I ran it very lean for several tanks of gas. And that is the worst thing you can do to a chainsaw. So I own all the problems with this thing. They're probably caused by me doing that. In any case, I got enough into the learning curve to figure some things out and get it to a better tune. It had more power. It was starting easier. Not easy, but easier. The main thing that it would do now is, one, just too hard to start in general. And then sometimes when I was out cutting, it would die, and I would just not be able to get it restarted hot. I'd have to put it away, go get my Harbor Freight chainsaw, finish the job. Next day I'd come back out, start it cold, no problem. Well, that went that way till it didn't. A couple of weeks ago, I was cutting, it died hot, couldn't get it restarted. Put it up, came out the next day, couldn't get it started. Came out the next day, couldn't get it started. And finally today, I cleared some time. I really started screwing with it. I clamped it down, I pulled it probably a couple hundred times today. Tried a whole range of carburetor settings, tweaking this, tweaking that, trying to get it, and made some progress, and got it to start, but it wouldn't run. It would bog and die as soon as it tried to drop to idle or what have you. but the carburetor settings at which it would do that are miles off of what was working before. So I'm not sure what was going on there. But I was hunting it, and it was getting better, and it was starting to sort of, like, I could get it to start, and I could get it to rev, but I couldn't get it to idle. And as I was hunting that setting, I started and it died pretty abruptly, and now it's seized. I don't know if it's seized, but it's certainly not starting anymore like that. So, the project now is to tear this thing apart. And I don't know what I'm doing. This is not a how-to video. I know very little about this saw. The point of this exercise is to learn it. This is exploratory surgery. I might destroy this thing. I could sleep at night if that happened. So I'm going to tear it apart, and I'm going to see if I can figure out what's wrong with it. As I've been talking, I noticed this. That's a screw. Loose. Sticking out the bottom. So we're going to start with that. There's my screw. Question is, where did it come from? That's where that errant bolt went. This handle shock mount is missing its fastener. Yep, it's bad. So, the piston's not moving in that cylinder. Means I can't even get it apart. Let's get that seated there. Get our industrial solve-all tool. That moved. Yep. Well, we have chunks of metal on the face there, which is, let's call it suboptimal. Ring's got a chunk of something wedged in there. I don't know what that's about. We are now, for the record, further into an internal combustion engine than I have ever been in my entire life. So if you're watching this, and you know what you're doing, buckle up for some cringing, because I don't. All right. Get you a better view of this. Oh, look at that. Corner broke off. Yikes. Well, that's going on the shopping list. As is that. All right, I'm gonna order some parts from China and we'll touch base again in 2 months when they show up. All right, Christmas comes early this year. Last time I made a Farmertec order, it took the full 2 months. This was less than 3 weeks. Get to dive right in. Got new piston and cylinder. Look really nice, actually. I'm pretty impressed. All the fits look good. Everything's smooth and clean. No excessive flash or mold lines or anything concerning, really. Piston cylinder, wrist pin, needle bearing, clips, rings. So the rings came with this. I bought a couple of upgrades. These on the website, they call these Caber rings. Caber's a good brand name. And of course, they just shipped in a Farmertec box and Farmertec on the bag, and there's no telling if I actually got what I paid for, but maybe. Don't see anything amiss about them. Gaskets, I only need one of these, but the kit was like 30 cents more, so these are just add-ons. You're paying for shipping from China, you might as well get some stuff. Both of these, so this is the little thumb nut that holds the cover on, and this is a, I don't even know what to call it, a little rubber piece that snaps into a casting, and then a pin goes in here. Anyway, I've almost lost both of these on a couple of occasions when something was vibrating or something came loose, and I'd finish a cut and I'd look down and see one of these laying in the bushes and be like, oh man, that'd be gone forever. So, and they're a couple of bucks, so I ordered them to have them. This is the boot for the carburetor, which these things can leak, and rather than have a leak and have to order one for $1 plus $10 shipping, I ordered it now to just have it. Got a set of outer bumper spikes. I've never run a saw with both, so I'm gonna try that. New blade studs for like 30 cents each because my old ones were gold. I noticed a couple of fasteners that were not factory. They were just, you know, socket head cap screws instead of these T27 Torx that are used everywhere else. So bought a few of those to replace it so I can use the same screwdriver on everything. And a new coil. I ripped the boot off my old one trying to get the spark plug out at one point. So, and I read that these can cause, you know, if these are starting to go, they can cause starting problems, and I was having a hard start, so we're gonna swap that out. So I'm gonna probably start with the coil, and then once I'm warmed up, get on to the rebuild. Never done this before. Wish me luck. Okay, that needs some cleanup. So this piece here goes in there, and then this one of these, I think this pin nests in that rubber part, and that's how that holds that on. And the flash here from the casting is interfering with that, so I'm gonna have to file that. No big deal. There. Much better. Set the gap on the coil. I'm using a chunk of cardstock, Mountain Dew box. It is 0.018 thick. Is that right? I don't know. But I'm gonna put that in here. May not be the right number, but it's in the ballpark, and at least it's going to be consistent. And I'm going to rotate the magnet. Press the coil against it. Tighten the bolts. Using 2-stroke oil as assembly lubricant. Figure it's good enough for when it's running. Ought to work now. These rings only go in one way if you're paying attention. I don't know if you're able to see this on the camera. There's where the ends of the ring squeeze together, there's a notch, a half circle, a quarter circle on each side, makes a half circle when they meet. And in the groove, there's a pin that mates with. And they're in different locations on the top ring and the bottom ring, so that those splits don't line up and you get good compression. So pay attention, and that should be kind of a gimme. Snap rings are in, pistons in, rings are in. I cleaned everything out real good. Don't forget the gasket. Alright, what am I forgetting? I'm not really sure how I'm supposed to hold that and start this at the same time. Okay. Well, I think I just have to get the carburetor boot on, and then it's easy. Pretty good. Not the compression release. Spark plug. Ooh. Feel that compression. Didn't have that before. Cool. Not a fan of this design. This cover has a weird, shallow, slotted screwdriver. Like, looks like it should be a thumb nut, but then it goes into a counterbore, so you can't tighten it by hand. So you have to get a tool, and it's a different tool than every other fastener on the thing uses. And it like has these rubber grommets with pins to hold it in place, which are a pain to line up and not very positive, so that's the decompression button doesn't line up with the tool very well. And then there's this bulkhead here with the hole for the spark plug. You have to put the spark plug in, then put the cover on, then plug the spark plug in. And this boot goes in there. And you can't take the cover off with the boot on because the wire goes through that hole. So you can't get your fingers in here to unplug and plug this in. That's why I ripped the other one apart. I was trying to use pliers and things to deal with it. And then this goes on there. At least it's got a proper toolless nut on it, but you know, I just put this thing together, and you saw I put that on and then realized I had to take it off to get this to fit. And then while I was working, at some point my wire came out of its little slot and I can't get it back in because that's over the... So anyway, I just have to do it again. Seems like every time I work on this saw, the stuff that should be quick and easy and done once is hard, and I have to do it 3 times. Get it off those pins, and then it doesn't come out. It's stuck there and there and there. You have to like bend it past there and then weasel it out of there. Get this back where it should be, and then do this again. Get it onto the spark plug. I mean, maybe if it was a real Stihl chainsaw, the tolerances would be better and all this would just go nice and easy, but the Chinese knockoff doesn't change the design. All these parts go together the same way on the real one as they do on this one. So, can't blame them. Plugging it in's not that bad. But like, unplugging that, and they give you this little, there's like a little loop here. Maybe you're supposed to grab onto that, but it is so weeny. I tore my last one the first time I tried to use it. So, yeah, that's that. Bought another one of these too. I'm going to convert this to drill start. Haven't gotten around to it yet. Because, you know, why bother when it doesn't run? At least you don't have to take the top off to take the side cover off. My Poland's that way, where those two dovetail together. So every time you want to get into your starter rope, you have to pull the cylinder cover apart. Alright, farmer compression test. Be able to pick a chainsaw up by its rope. Yeah. Coming down slow, but a lot better than before. Yeah, you know, I said it feels like I need to take this off 3 times. Well, 4. I forgot the handle fishes through there, and I need to get that screwed, so and to take this off because of the way it's done, I need to take the spark plug boot off. Take the spark plug boot off, I need to take this off. Thanks, Stihl. And like, how? Come on. How are you supposed to do this? This is absurd. Whoa. Well, sacrifice of some knuckle skin, I got it. There's more stuff in the way. What? Well, just seized. What the heck?